Hidden away in dusty files are the untold stories of Korean comfort women silenced by history. Two initiatives, a 1995 rescue fund and a 2015 agreement, claimed to make things right. But why were these sincere apologies forgotten by South Korea? Why were untrusted actions repeated? What is South Korea hiding behind its deceptive mask? Let's open these records and follow the trail of broken promises. In the 1930s and 1940s, across Asia's impoverished regions, parents sometimes sold their children to brokers in hopes of improving family livelihoods, unaware of the consequences. During this period, these children were sent into various roles, such as apprenticeships or manual labor, and in some cases, forced to work under harsh conditions. During World War II, many Korean women signed contracts with local agents, lured by the promise of high wages to work in so-called comfort stations. It was, at its core, a business. Agents negotiated salaries, families received advance payments, and boards oversaw the operations. But as time passed, political narratives replaced these women's true experiences, reshaping history to serve agendas far removed from their realities. Today, we examine a shocking reality. Korean comfort women were misled by their own government and by support organizations that professed to help but profited from the survivors' suffering. In this investigation, we'll uncover what truly happened during those years and expose how their suffering has been exploited for political gain and anti-Japan propaganda. Under the slogan, "Anti-Japan is innocent," South Korean academics researching comfort women and Japan's role in Korea's modernization have been accused for their academic statements and even faced threats of violence. International laws and bilateral agreements between South Korea and Japan have been repeatedly nullified by South Korean courts, which often prioritize domestic sentiment over legal obligations. But before we look at specifics, let's understand how recruiters and agents structured these deals on the ground. Records show many women entered agreements, contracts promising high wages for work in Japan's designated stations. These contracts guaranteed substantial advance pay compared to local wages. For some, the prospect of financial security drew them and their families into these arrangements. In impoverished regions, parents sometimes sold their daughters to brokers, unaware these agents would misrepresent the work. Women believed they were headed for factory jobs. Instead, they found themselves isolated in foreign stations, betrayed by the very people they trusted. To date, no authenticated Japanese military order directed the kidnapping or forced recruitment of Korean women. Historians who examined Japanese archives reported no documents authorizing widespread forced roundups. Japan officially acknowledges that women referred to as comfort women worked in comfort stations and that the system existed. However, the Japanese government denies any widespread, systematic forced recruitment, so-called slave hunting, or direct abductions, noting that no materials to date directly demonstrate military or official orders for such actions. The government also states that the term sex slave is contrary to the facts and was deliberately omitted from the 2015 Japan-Korea Agreement. The Japanese cabinet recently ruled
that the expression military comfort women is misleading and inappropriate, recommending use of only comfort women to avoid implying direct military coercion.
In contrast to Japan's investigations and apologies for comfort women, South Korea has never formally addressed allegations against its own forces. The allegation known to survivors and researchers as the Lai Dai-han, cases of rape and forced sexual exploitation by Republic of Korea Marine and Army forces during the Vietnam War, have emerged supported by survivor testimonies, NGO reports, and declassified U.S. Pentagon War Crimes Working Group files. However, the South Korean government has never admitted responsibility or offered an apology for these sexual violence incidents, revealing their double standard on wartime sexual crimes. The term Lai Dai-han refers to Vietnamese Korean children conceived through rape or coerced sex involving ROK troops during the Vietnam War. Estimates suggest approximately 5,000 to 30,000 children were born as Lai Dai-han. Before we examine Japan's assistance efforts, let's look at who these women were and how diverse their backgrounds truly were. Since the 1990s, Japanese scholars and government officials have interviewed survivors in multiple countries. Contrary to popular belief, the comfort women included individuals from many Asian countries, Korea, the Philippines, Taiwan, and more. Yet Japanese women constituted the majority. Japanese archives reveal this diverse but Japanese-dominated composition existed in comfort stations, a nuance often lost in political debate. Decades before the 2015 Japan-South Korea agreement, Japan had already set up a regional fund to support comfort women across Asia. Japan established the Asian Women's Fund in July 1995 under Prime Minister Murayama to fulfill a moral responsibility toward comfort women survivors. The fund raised approximately 600 million yen through government contributions and private donations. Its key initiatives included uniform atonement payments to survivors in the Philippines, South Korea, and Taiwan, totaling approximately 570 million yen, sourced from donations. Medical and welfare support, amounting to approximately 510 million yen from government grants, delivered over 5 years to survivors in the Philippines, South Korea, and Taiwan. Issuance of an official Prime Minister's letter to accompany the atonement payments. Completion of these 3-country projects by September 2002, with 285 survivors aided. Separate government-funded support projects for survivors in the Netherlands and Indonesia, where official recognition was more challenging. Many survivors recall these payments and letters as essential to their recovery and dignity. Long before the 2015 agreement, Japan had already established the 1995 Asian Women's Fund, which provided both public and private money for atonement payments and medical support to survivors across Asia. Although the comfort women issue had already been addressed through the 1995 fund, South Korea brought the matter back into diplomatic contention in 2015. Amid deteriorating relations, South Korean President Park Geun-hye appealed to U.S. President Obama to help mediate. The two governments ultimately reached a final and irreversible settlement, committing to move forward and resolve the issue. Japan contributed 1 billion yen to launch the Reconciliation and Healing Foundation, though Prime Minister Shinzo Abe reportedly faced strong domestic objections due to long-standing concerns over South Korea's repeated reversals and lack of trust on this issue. By October 2022, the Japanese government had directly disbursed funds to 35 living survivors and 65 bereaved families, separate from the Reconciliation and Healing Foundation, which was managed by the South Korean government and responsible for handling the 2015 settlement fund. However, in 2019, the administration under President Moon Jae-in dissolved the foundation, effectively nullifying the agreement. To date, the South Korean government has not officially disclosed how the Healing Fund was used, nor explained the dissolution to Japan, leaving victims again with unanswered questions. At the time of dissolution, out of the 10 billion yen, approximately 4.4 billion yen had been paid to survivors, while over 5 billion yen remained unallocated, again, its fate unresolved. In a dramatic turn, in May 2020, former survivor Lee Yong-soo, who for over 20 years served as an advocate, mediator, and public spokesperson supporting fellow victims within the group, publicly exposed misconduct by support group leader Yoon Mi-young of the Korean Council for the Women Drafted for Military Sexual Slavery by Japan. She revealed that millions in donations had been misused for politics and personal gain. Over 3 years, 863 million won was raised, but only 9% reached the victims. Lee Yong-soo also testified that the support group organized protests against Japan in ways the former comfort women did not want. Yoon Mi-young, her protest movements against Japan were highly praised. She ran as the ruling party candidate in the general election and won her first seat on her first attempt. But in 2023, she was convicted of embezzlement and handed a 1-year and 6-month prison sentence. Investigations revealed that beyond misusing the group's official accounts, she diverted donations through her personal bank account to conceal funds. Despite public demands for transparency, her group refused to publicly disclose detailed expenditure breakdowns, further eroding trust in who truly represents the victims. South Korea requested U.S. arbitration and signed the 2015 Final and Irreversible Agreement, yet later dissolved the fund, redirected the money, and kept none of its promises. Both the government and its largest support group have gained political capital and funding by keeping the dispute alive, while survivors' voices go unheard. Even after scrapping the accord, the current administration is again using the issue domestically to inflame public sentiment, turning tragedy into a political deal. These untrusted actions reveal a nation willing to betray other countries and even its own people for short-term gain. It's sad to say, but South Korea continues to conceal its true face behind a deceptive mask. The Comfort Women story is complex and contested. Before you judge, examine the archives and listen to every testimony. Subscribe for more deep investigations into history's hidden stories. Your perspective matters.